we're very proud to offer you this opportunity. Times are not what we had expected or anticipated this year. We've had some twists and turns, but we felt like this would be appropriate to help you maybe navigate some of the things that you're going to be encountering in the workplace. So along with me today, we have David Williams, and he is our training manager. He's going to be our producer, so he will be answering questions in chat. As I mentioned, because we have so many people, if you remain muted until we have a moment to take some questions. But if you put your question in the chat, then there will be an opportunity for David to present those to me when we get a little bit of time. Okay, so I want to go through the Teams environment with you and just start some of those things to give you an idea of how to work with Teams. We are using Teams to run this webinar, so obviously you can have quite a number of people in a team. 250 is the limit, the maximum number of people that can be in a team or a team meeting. Okay, so I am sharing my screen, and I'm going to point you to some things on the screen. So right now I'm clicking on what's called the action bar on the left-hand side of my screen here. And we have several different icons that are here: activities, chat, teams, calendar, calls, and files. We're going to talk about some of those. If we have time, we'll talk about a few more. It just depends on what the opportunities allow over the next hour. I want to be respectful of your time. And so probably the most frequently used of these would be chat, Teams, and calendar. So the entire application that you're looking at, this is the desktop version of Teams. But if you're coming through the web app as well, you may notice that the web app window looks very similar to the Teams desktop app. And so you won't find a lot of differences in them. There is an activity bar in each of them. This next section is called the list section. And you'll notice that when I click on icons on the activity bar, that actually changes what you see in the list section. Okay, so you can see different parts of the Teams environment as we go along. And then this larger section that you see on the right-hand side is the content section. So if I'm looking at a team, you'll notice I'm showing you the instructor team today. I have 3 what are called channels in this team. And those are the general channel, which is default. When we create our team in a few minutes, you'll see that there is only a general channel there. We also have a contractor guide, which is just a project that I had to work on earlier this year, and it hasn't been hidden or taken out. And then we have one that's called Projects for Suzanne. So that's a channel that I created for myself so that other individuals in our management team could assign tasks to me. So it lets me see specifically what the projects are that they want me to have. You can see I do have some other hidden teams down here, and you can hide a team by clicking the ellipse and just choosing hide. Okay, so it's easy to do. And then it puts it in with all of the other teams. So I can go right back to it and say, whoops, I didn't want to do that. I want to show it. So it's just grouping them together. Okay, so you're seeing some activity on this team because one of our instructors is responding to something that someone posted earlier. So in the team, in the instructor team, this is our management team and then all of the instructing staff and technical staff that deliver classes here. And you can see that we can have a conversation, and everyone that's part of that team gets notified when something is posted in this team. You notice I have a little chat icon up here, and that is because activity has taken place on this team. So you can see that, yeah, we like to keep things fun, especially in our current situation. You have to laugh or some days you'll just want to cry. So we try to keep it light and encourage one another. You can put icons in here. I can like that icon that our other instructor just posted. He doesn't know that we're looking at his team, but you can just, let people know that you saw it or that you liked it or you thought it was funny, using those icons. And a lot of times, because this is chatted information, emoticons are important because, or emojis are important because you don't get a lot from the text that's typed sometimes. And so using an emoji to respond is often a good way to articulate better what your emotions are actually like. Now, some other things that we're going to see in the content section would be files. So I can click on tabs. These are like tabs across the top. Posts and files are default tabs. They will be in our new team when we create a team. You'll also notice that I have added a couple of extra tabs. One is called Meeting Notes. And if I click on Meeting Notes, this is just notes from meetings that we've had within this team. So it's a notebook, and so I can click on each page or each section that you'll see, and there will be notes added there. The other one is for our virtual class setup. And the virtual class setup is part of an application that's called Planner. So this lets me actually assign tasks. I have a to-do list for Matthew, and I can add other buckets and add other tasks to those buckets and assign them to anyone that's on that team or to multiple players. And then we can actually see this on a board charted or on a schedule. Okay, so we have some different icons there. Now, Planner is not part of what we are intending to talk about, but I wanted to show you that you could add tabs by just clicking the plus sign here to this content section. And then when you do that, there are lots of different tabs that you could incorporate into that content section. So a variety of different things that are Microsoft products, and also some things that are third-party products, but might be things that you use. So you can add those tabs if you want to. I have added a couple of them. So the other thing that I want to point out about your screen is over here in the upper right-hand corner. You can see my picture. And when I point to it, it says that I'm presenting. So because I'm in a meeting and I'm the organizer of the meeting, I show that presenting is my status. So anyone in Teams sees that red dot, they know I'm not available for communication right now. That also limits the number of interruptions that I'm going to see. Now, when I'm looking right at a team, I'm going to see something, and I will see activity show up over here on the action bar. But I won't see it. I won't see as many floaties pop up, notifications like you would see in Outlook. What you can find under your face icon, basically, I can change my picture. Most organizations don't let you change your picture, so you may not actually see that. You can change your status. So even though I'm presenting, I can change it to available or busy or do not disturb if I want to, any of those things. And you can set a custom status message here. And this is also where you can get to the settings for your team, which is where you would configure things like how do I get notifications? Do I get a banner? Do I get a pop-up? Do I get an email? Do I get all of the above? And you can customize many of the different types of notifications so that you don't see everything happening at once. Okay, so you can customize those so that you are not inundated. All right, so I can also sign out there. I don't need to sign out because I'm on my computer. So let's take a look at creating a team. All right, so now you'll notice there's some stuff happening over here on my action bar. So I have an activity, I have a chat, and then this @ symbol on the team is a mention. That's what happens. You can see there's one right here because the whole team, well, David and I were mentioned because of this morning's webinar. We got some really good feedback, and the COO decided to jump on the team and send us a message and tell us that she was happy. So that's what happens. You get that @ symbol when someone mentions you. So you know that that might be more important. I might need to go and check out that information more quickly than other things. Now, I don't really think that it's necessary for me to go look at that one right now because it's in one of my hidden teams. And so I will just leave that until after the webinar. Everybody knows what I'm doing right now because my status tells them. So what we want to do is we want to create a team. So I can do that by selecting teams on my action bar. Make sure you're on teams. Down here at the bottom, you have the option to join or create a team. And so if you know of a team that exists, you can click on it and join it. Or if I click here and I see that there's an IBM Cognos team that I want to be part of, then I can ask to join that team. Now teams, as we create a team, we're going to just create one. I'm going to click create. You'll notice I have two options. I can build a team from scratch, or I can create one that's from an already existing group. So I'm going to just build a team from scratch today. Already existing group in your organization would be something along the lines of a distribution group or maybe a SharePoint site that has already got grouped information. So I'm going to close Outlook because there we go. I was seeing some bad quality on my network. So closing down some things to make it run a little better is a good plan. All right, so when I create a team, I can choose for it to be a private team, which means that people need permission to join. I can make it a public team, which means anyone can join. They can ask and automatically join, or I can make it an org-wide team. And in that case, everybody in my organization up to 250 people can join. Okay, so I'll make this a private team, and I'm going to just call this webinar PM, and I will create it. So it takes just a couple seconds to create. And then you'll see it show up over here on the left, but there's nobody else in the team but me. I'm the owner. And so I am going to invite David and Jeffrey. Jeffrey is one of our other trainers, and he has joined us on the meeting I saw a few minutes ago, I think. So we are going to have those two gentlemen interact with me a little bit. You notice that they are added as members. And then I can close this. So right now in our entire organization, we are the only 3 that have been added to this team. If other people in our organization look at teams, they will not see any teams that they're not a member of show up in their list. Okay, so you don't have to worry about information displaying that you don't want people to see. You can make it by invitation only. Now, once you have a team, the channels can actually be private channels too, which means that they could be by invitation only. And now you can see that David has commented on my team so that everybody can see it, everyone that's part of our conversation. You also see that he used my name in that and gave me an @ symbol, and Jeffrey has jumped on the bandwagon and added a GIF. So as I said, we like to have fun in our conversations, and sometimes it can be hard to keep up with. So I love Pusheen though, so that was a good choice. All right, so within our team, the general tab is already here, and you can see that we have posts. We do have files, and then Wiki was a default tab that I removed from the other team that we looked at. Okay, so you can see a couple of posts here. You can We can click on files, but you'll notice that there aren't any files yet. If I want to add a file, it is as simple as clicking the upload button and just grabbing something off of your desktop. So I'm going to grab this course description. It's a test. And actually, we used this one this morning too. So now I have this analyzing data with Power BI test that has been added as a file. You can see when it was modified. You can see who modified it. And if I want to open this and view it, I have 3 different options as far as viewing files in a team. So if I click on this file in the team, I can see it, but I don't necessarily have the option of editing it right here. Okay, I would have to go back to the file. So, but you see that we can have a conversation. So I can actually start a chat just about this file. Okay, so I'm going to close this one. And I'm going to go back and show you the other ways that we can open it. So I also mentioned that if you click the ellipse here at the end of each file, there's an option to open. And so I can open it in Word Online, which means it's going to pop up on my other screen, and I'll have to drag it over here because it came up in a browser, which is what we wanted it to do. So before I start making changes to this document, I want to make sure that Track Changes is turned on so that we can edit the document together. So I'm going to go to my Review tab, and I'm going to turn on Track Changes for everyone.
We can't see your screen right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I will reshare this entire window. Okay, can you see it now? Take a second.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
great.
that's good.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, so now you'll notice that up here we see that JD has joined the meet and greet on the file as well. And because Track Changes is turned on for everyone, if we correct something in this, because I see that we lost a slash, then we can both work together. Jeffrey's cursor is right here, but he can go elsewhere in the file and change things. You know, so can change this to today, and I will see that little blue flag wherever he is so that I know to stay in a different paragraph. But you can see where each of us have made changes to the document. And David, here comes David. So we can actually have a number of people working on the same document at the same time, but we're tracking the changes so that we know what has changed, and we can allow someone to go back through and accept or reject those changes. So this could be very helpful if you need to work on a document together, or if you have Excel workbooks that have multiple sheet tabs and people need to use different tabs. Now, I can still go to the desktop app, so I can click the button here to open this in the desktop app, and Jeffrey and David are going to be able to stay in there and keep editing. So it's not going to impact what they're doing. Oh, except that Word is trying to do something else right now. So I'm going to go back over here. So it didn't like me. There was something that it didn't like. So it's just going to go back and resume editing online. And I know what it is. I have Word is already in use doing something else. So it does tell you when you enter a document where Track Changes is turned on, that Track Changes is turned on, because you could actually set it so that even though Track Changes is turned on, you don't see the markup. Okay, so it could be that's not an option that's available in the web, but if you open it in the desktop app, you can make it so that we don't see the markup until someone goes to accept and reject the changes and then you can turn those on. All right, so this is one of the things that Teams is really good for. We can create documents and post them in a team, and instead of having a document that has 6 different versions because somebody made a copy of it and gave it a new version name and stuck it up on the drive where everybody has access to it, or emailed a copy of it to 6 different people, I don't have to combine this back together. This is the one and only document. And so I don't have to worry about those changes impacting my document um, and making it harder for me to have to go back and combine all of that together at a later time. Okay, so I'm going to go back out of the Word document. Now, if I want to go back through the web, I can go back up here to General, and that just closes the Word document. But you'll notice that I'm not in my Teams app anymore. I'm actually in a SharePoint site. So I used the S word. I know some people are frightened of SharePoint, but every team has a SharePoint site that's backing it up. That's where the files are actually stored. Okay, so I'm going to close this browser and just go back to my Teams window. And I'm still looking at my file. So I'm back where we started. Okay, now it automatically opens things in a browser view, but then you can also click the ellipse and choose open in Word, and that would open it directly in the desktop app. Again, Jeffrey could continue editing it, so we can both open it from this cloud location, and it supports that. Much better than folders on a network drive would support allowing multiple users to edit things. So I'm very happy with the editing features in Word documents. And well, in any document for that matter. Just about the only thing that you can't edit would be a locked file like a PDF. So I can store them in a team, but I can't edit them unless I have Adobe Acrobat to open it up with. So it doesn't automatically let me open it. Although, now that I say that, Word 2016 will actually open, or Word and 365 in 2019 will actually open PDFs. So I take that back. You can just edit the PDF in Word and make your changes. All right, so that lets us take a look at the Files section. Now, if I wanted to add a tab to this, I can click the plus sign to, whoops, I was trying to drag the window, but that's not going to work. And I can add a planner tab. So I can either create a new plan or I can use an existing plan. There aren't any existing plans for this team, so I would just have to create a new plan, and we'll call it webinar tasks. And so now I can start adding tasks. Again, I don't want to get too wrapped up in that because I've got a lot of other things I want to show you about Teams. And if you decide that you need more information about any of the other apps that I talk about, we do have some options for additional training that are a part of classes that we offer at the computer workshop. So let me go back over here, and we've created a tab, we've created some conversation in our general team here, and see, I get a notification to the entire conversation, to the entire post, that a new tab has been created. So everybody in the team knows that that took place. Now, what if I want another channel? I can add channels to my team by 2 methods. There's a button right here to create more channels. But after a while, that button is going to be way up at the top, and you're not going to want to scroll all the way through the chat to find it every time. So you can also come over here to the team, and you can actually add a channel. Okay, so I'm just going to call it webinar channel. And notice that I have the option of letting everyone on the team access this or making it only specified to a certain team. So it's private. So even within my team, this channel is invitation only. Okay. So if I make that a private team, I won't for this one, but takes just a second again for it to add. And now I have an opportunity for another set of posts, files, and additional tabs that I might need that are specifically related to whatever we're talking about in this particular project, this webinar channel. Okay, so um, so the channels give me the option of eliminating the need to see all of the conversation that's happening with the entire team about every nitty gritty little thing. But why do I like the conversation? I like the conversation because every person that is added to this channel or to this team can go to the post tab and they can find all of the conversation all the way back to the beginning of the team. So think about times when you have been part of a project and you were brought in maybe, you know, 2 months after everybody else on the project. And so you have to ask a lot of questions because the information is not there, or someone forwards you a bunch of emails, but they don't remember to forward all of the emails. And so you're kind of trying to piece together the conversation. That's not going to happen here because the whole conversation is there. And you can actually search for information up here on the search bar in that conversation. So it's a beautiful way to maintain the communication, and then we can decide how long we want to keep that. So your conversation can roll off after a period of time, but it can be a very, very long time, or you just keep it until the team is no longer used. Okay. Um, Again, once a team or a channel has been created, I can't change the status. So if I wanted to make a private channel, I couldn't just go to the webinar channel and edit the channel and turn it to a private channel. Okay. Everybody is going to see this, and that's all we get as an option. If I want something to be a private channel, then when I add my channel, I am going to change this one to private, and you'll notice that there's a little lock symbol, and so it immediately asks me to start inviting people. So I'm just going to invite Jeffrey, and David is going to be left out in the cold. Sorry, David. Okay, so now Jeffrey and I can communicate about any files or tasks that are in that private webinar channel, and other people will not get notifications. They will not be added to that, and they're not going to see all of those communications along the way. Okay. All right. So that gets us some good information about working with teams and channels. I want to turn my attention to what happens if you want to communicate with someone using just one person. You don't want to talk to the whole team, or there's a conversation that needs to happen, but it's not, it's easier to just chat with one or two people than it is to include the entire team, or it doesn't involve the entire team, but it's not worth creating another channel. I can actually come up here to chat, and I can click on chat. And now look, you can see that we are actually in our webinar. So our chat is included in the chat that I can see for all of my teams because this is my meeting. I own it. Okay. But if I wanted to create a new chat, let's see if I have one for Jeffrey. Okay, so Jeffrey and I have had some conversations. One was just this morning, and so we were able to fix a problem that might have occurred tomorrow, which is always good, heading things off at the pass. And so you can see that it just picks back up on the conversation that Jeffrey and I have already had, because and so Jeffrey has commented here, and I'm going to just note that I agree with him using those little emojis. Okay. Now, I can also mark this as unread or share it in Outlook. If Jeffrey said something so profound, which happens all the time, that I want to share it with the rest of the team or the rest of our office, then I could share it in Outlook. You do. Okay. But I can also save this message so that if I want to get back to that later, I can. Okay. You might have noticed a little bookmark in the upper right hand corner right below where my login information is. And so how do I get back to those saved items? Well, I can actually click this drop down and choose saved, and all of the saved chat items that I have are all listed over here. So here's the one for Jeffrey. And they just have that little bookmark symbol next to them. So then I can click on that. Here's one that David and I had yesterday. And I decided to save this because we were talking about doing a speed test. Where could I find that information? And he gave me a couple of links first thing yesterday morning. And so I saved it because I knew I might need to get back to it at some point. Okay, you can also see there are a couple of other people that I have saved things from, a lot from Shanine. She and I work on a lot of projects together. So, so those are some nice things about saving. Now, another thing that I can do is if I just click on chat, you can see all of the previous chats that I've had, but then I also have the ability to search that. If I click my little filter symbol here, I can put in a word that I'm looking for. And so if I type in the word power, you can see all of the chats that have the word power in them. So if you know you were talking to someone and you can't remember exactly what it was, but you remember a little bit of the information, then you can use that. Or I could find someone in the list more quickly. So Brian is one of our other instructors, and I can search for part of his name and it pulls his chat to the top of the list so that I can get back to those individuals. Now, I also have little options for each one of these. So if this is a conversation that I know I'm going to come back to all the time, which David's would be, then I can actually pin that. So I can pin this conversation so that it stays at the top of my list. Otherwise, it's just going to be recent conversations. I should probably pin our COO as well so that I can get back to their contents as quickly as possible whenever I have to communicate with them. It's easier to go back and find it on a shorter list. So that is working with choosing an individual conversation. Now, if I wanted to, you can see I have a conversation with David and Jeffrey that happened a few days ago. So when I use the private chat, I can add more than one name. So it could be 2 or 3 people, but it doesn't have to necessarily be the entire team or the entire channel. Okay. So, so that deals with chatting information. So if you want to have smaller conversations, use the chat feature that's on the action bar. If you want to talk to an entire team, select your team's icon on the action bar, go to the channel that is appropriate, most appropriate, and start your message. Now, I want to point out a couple of things about conversation chat here. And this may be something that you're already familiar with because it's similar to other forms of social media, but you have 2 different options when it comes to conversations. You can see that Jeffrey and David had a conversation here, and I can reply to that. And so it actually adds it to this little snippet of the conversation. So it's kind of like when you tell Outlook to group your emails by conversation, this is doing the same thing. And then you can also see that I can come down here and start a new conversation which is going to make it just appear at the bottom of the feed. So you all are welcome to let me know what your favorite thing is that you have learned so far in chat. And Jeffrey or David, if you can tell us what some of those things are, I'll give you all a couple of minutes to, or a couple of seconds, not minutes. Our time is too precious, but just give me a few. Tell me what your favorite thing is so far. There's more. So you're going to use your team chat. Let me come back over here to this window for a moment. So this is the meeting. If you have gotten confused because it's a team within a team, you're going to always get back to your meeting by clicking the little floating window. Okay, and then you can point to more actions. This is actually probably not a bad thing to talk about as far as meetings are concerned. So this is where David started the recording. You can see I could stop the recording if I wanted to. I can go into a full screen mode. You can also show device settings. So if you ever sign into a meeting and your microphone doesn't work, click that more actions, go into the device settings and take a look at connecting to the correct microphone or to the correct set of speakers. Sometimes if you have a headset and a microphone, I have a webcam and a headset with a microphone, and occasionally they get confused and I have to tell it which microphone to use. So, so that's where you can go into the device settings and make those changes. So I can click on chat here and show some of our chat conversation. I'm going to move this window out of the way. Okay, and I see you all are chatting away. So that's, yeah, searching for conversations. I love that. You're in a school environment and you have some concerns over the chat. I see the benefits, but see the risks. Is there a way to configure with some limitations? Send me an email. I'm going to post a slide at the end of the presentation that has our email address, and email that to me specifically because I don't know exactly where those settings are, but I think that you can limit some of the chat so that you don't have students running away with themselves, right? Getting distracted. You can also have your IT department remove things like GIFs. Okay, so David is one of our administrators and he is responding to that you can disable emojis and GIFs from the admin portal. So you would have to talk to someone who is an administrator and have them change the things that you don't want to be allowed. Okay, so yes, because it is good, but I like being able to search for conversations too, because I always remember that part of it is there, but not all of it. So these are good things. Thank you, David. David is our training manager and always number one to bring the power. So, all right, let's go back and take a look at a couple of other things. We're going to take a look at working with meetings. Okay, and then we'll have time for a few more questions as we get toward the end here. So if I want to create a meeting, I've got 3 different ways that I can accomplish that. I can use the calendar app that's over here, and I can actually click on my calendar and schedule a meeting. Okay, so we'll have a webinar debrief today. Jeffrey and David. Oops. There we go. I'm typing too fast. That's what it is. Okay. So, so I can send that, and you'll notice when I add it to the calendar, it just shows up as an icon. If I click on it, it now has the Teams meeting link in it. So I had to actually save it first, and then I can open this up and join it later. A lot of times you'll get a reminder too. So there will be a reminder that shows up. If something is set up in this app, the default is 30 minutes for the meeting. So you would always need to extend the end time. It is possible to make it repeat. So you don't have quite as many options as some other apps, but you do have the ability to make it repeat. Okay, so I will close that for the time being. But that is one way that you can make your meeting. And then as you get closer, this join button will appear. Usually the join button appears about 15 to 30 minutes before the meeting. So whenever your reminder would pop up. And then instead of having to click on it and then click join, you can actually just join from right there. Okay. Now, another way that you might create a meeting is to do what's called a meet now. So there's a button right here that's called meet now. Another place that you'll see meet now is if I'm in the middle of a conversation, and I'm not going to do it because it would actually put you all on hold and take me and Jeffrey and David over to another meeting. But what I could do is I could click this little camera symbol, and that puts one of these little conversations in that says meet now. And anyone that's part of the team can click join, and they don't have to have a link to the meeting. They just have to be a member of the team, and they can hop right into the meeting. So sometimes those types of meetings happen when we're chatting back and forth. We actually had one of these the other day. It was over email, and um, our training manager said, "All right, let's talk about this in the team, and let's just meet because we're having too many things flying back and forth, and it can get a little hard to keep track of sometimes." So we jumped in and had a meet now. And that is a wonderful impromptu opportunity. The third way that you could actually join a meeting or create a meeting is with Outlook. So I'm going to open Outlook up. You may have seen this before, so I won't go through the entire process, but I want to show you at least what it looks like in Outlook. It's trying, it's thinking. I know you can't see Outlook yet, it's coming. Maybe. All right, well, Outlook will be back with us in just a moment. Um, so that is the third way that we can create a meeting. I also want to point out there are some icons down here. So if you want to bold information or add attachments into this, you can create attachments. You're also going to notice, okay, there, Outlook is ready to go. Let me jump back over here and show you my calendar. Select my account, select my calendar, and then again, I can just schedule a meeting. And what you're going to see is there's an option here to make this a Teams meeting. So when I click that, before I clicked it, it was just a regular meeting on my calendar. But as soon as I clicked that Teams meeting button, it automatically adds the link so that I can send this out and invite additional individuals to my meeting. Now, if you want to invite guests, you all are guests today in our environment, that again is another consideration that your IT department has to allow you to do. Okay, so if you plan on using Teams for communication outside your organization, outside your core group or your company, then you will want to make sure that your IT department allows that setting or doesn't disable it. I know some organizations that I've worked with can invite guests and others cannot. So we have it set up so that we can invite guests because that's a really great way for us to deliver virtual training. And it has worked very well. We have very few problems with that. All right, so one last thing then, or maybe a couple more items. Calling people. If you want to use Teams as voice over IP to call, you can either use video or audio call. So I can click on this calls. It shows my recent contacts or anyone that's listed in my contacts group. And um, and so I can just add whole new groups, or this is just for this particular team that I'm working with. So anyone that is not available, David is on a call, Brian is on a call, Jeffrey's on a call, um, because they're all in the meeting. So, but anyone that's not available will show with a red dot. Anyone who is away from their desk or their teams have been inactive will show a yellow dot, and anyone who is actively using Teams or has been working on their system will show a green dot. If you call someone and they're not there, there is the ability, you can see over here, to configure voicemail. However, that's another one of those things that your IT department has to set up. So Teams does not by default roll over to like your phone voicemail. We have a separate soft phone that we use here at the computer workshop. And so if you call me on Teams, it does not flip over to the soft phone voicemail. However, you also can't call me on that phone and have a video chat with me. So there are reasons why sometimes meeting face to face, especially in this day and age where we're not actually able to be in the same room with each other, it's kind of nice to see faces, I think. So now we couldn't really facilitate that in this meeting because we have so many faces that we would not be able to see them all anyway. And that brings me to a question that someone brought up this morning. When I am looking at the Teams window, when I'm looking at this, you can see all of the individuals that have joined down here at the bottom. And you can see 4 large squares, right? There's not a way to customize who you're going to see there. It's usually the first few people that joined, or if we are talking back and forth, it'll be the last few people who talked. If you have a profile picture like David does, you'll see his profile picture pops up. And you can actually private message people by doing that. If I point to something, let me move this out of the way. You can see when I point to David's, I can actually send a chat and that goes just to David. So um, if you're in the middle of a meeting and you had a comment that was relevant to someone else but not everyone, or you didn't want to unmute, you could communicate that to one particular person. Okay, now I mentioned when I was over here in Teams that we could meet now, but I also opted not to do that at this time because that would put everyone on hold. Okay, the same thing is true if you're in another meeting. So if I'm in a Teams meeting and I can chat, um, by pointing to David's icon and chat with him. But if I hit the phone or the camera, it's going to put this meeting on hold and we're going to jump onto a different call separately. So you want to be careful about that when you're working with Teams. For the most part, if you're connected to a network without Wi-Fi, so if you're using a direct connection, I don't have a lot of problems with video and audio at the same time. But I did find earlier last week that if I'm using Wi-Fi, I really can't show video very well, especially if I'm doing anything else on the system. So if Outlook is open or if I have a lab running or something like that when I'm in training, it wasn't enough. So I've actually had to get my system here at home connected to directly connected to my router so that I don't have to deal with those types of difficulties or conflicts. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the chat. I think I hit everything on my list. I'm gonna go back to the chat and see, are there any other questions or anything you want me to elaborate on? David or Jeffrey, if you want to bring any of those to our attention.
Yeah, actually, hey Jake, I'm just going to answer this. My fingers are getting tired over here typing away. So the little box that she has that she's kind of moving around that's floating, when you're in a screen share, this is like a little preview area, and it would show you like who's talking. So if I have my camera turned on, you would see my video pop up in that little
Oh,
box since she's in her screen sharing. If she exits screen sharing, then that box goes away and you don't see it any longer.
right. So, which I can actually do. If I stop sharing my screen, then it will go back to, I thought I stopped sharing my screen.
Yep,
It
you
should
did.
it should go back to just full screen video, but mine doesn't look like that. Well, yeah, it
So
does,
we
because
mine's
nobody
got the
else
four
is sharing
tiles.
camera.
Hmm.
Yeah, you got
And
4
right now,
tiles.
folks, this question popped up in the last session. There are no um, released plans, if you will, for Microsoft to get more than the four tiles, uh, like how we have in Zoom and some of the other platforms. So it's I know been one of the hangups with some organizations migrating to Teams for video conferencing while we're all working out of our offices here. Um, so right now we're stuck with the four if using Teams. Um, Otherwise, we got to cross our fingers and hope Microsoft throws an update out for us in the near future.
Okay. Any other questions? We've still got just a few minutes. I must have talked faster this time. Okay. Is it possible to connect the chat function in Teams with the chat function in Jabber? I do not know the answer to that right off the bat.
My
Um,
knowledge, not.
okay.
I've used Jabber with one of our customers, and I do not know that there's an integration between those two. From what I've seen and what they've told me, because they use Teams in their organization, the Teams chat is separate from the Jabber chat.
Okay. That's also another thing that I noticed as I'm teaching. I can either show participants, I can either click this icon and see who is in the meeting, or I can show chat. You cannot show both at the same time. So some other applications give you the ability to pop those windows out and put them other places. Teams does not do that. It keeps everything lodged in that right-hand side and switches back and forth. Okay. Okay, I see. When you schedule a meeting, does a phone number to call in automatically populate? David, you want to take that one?
Sure. So it does not automatically populate unless if your organization um, configures Teams to integrate with a conferencing system, then yes, your meetings that you create would have a call-in option, much like GoToMeeting would have a call-in option, but it would be, specific for whatever conferencing system you're set up to use. So that would be unique and different per organization. At this time, Microsoft does not supply that conferencing tool. So you'd have to have your third party tool that integrates in with it. Doesn't look terribly difficult to do. You just have to supply that and have that set up outside of Teams.
Okay, and then James has a question. If you schedule a meeting with a specific channel, does everyone in the whole team see the invite? Um, I think I read that wrong. Within a specific channel, does everyone in the whole team see the invite? No. When you're scheduling a meeting, um, are you
Oh,
talking
can
about
you
the meet?
reshare?
Oh yeah, that would be a good thing, wouldn't it? if you're scheduling a meeting, when I'm in a channel and I click the Meet Now button, it's going to just show up for those people. So if I click Meet Now, then you all would be on hold, and you wouldn't see me anymore. You wouldn't see my screen anymore. So I'm not going to do that. But if you
Hey,
go,
go
sorry.
back in there real quick.
Yep.
I think what he might be referring to is at the bottom, if you click on schedule meeting, notice it does not automatically add all the attendees into the
Right.
attendee list.
True.
So you would still have to drop in the required attendees just below where the title is. But there would be a link and information in regards to which channel we're meeting in.
Okay. Yeah. If you just click Meet Now, it doesn't actually send out a link. When you click the Meet Now button, like if I just hit Meet Now right now, it would look just like this planner thing does, except it would say join in the upper right hand corner. So it doesn't give any notification to anyone. So usually I don't do that unless David and Jeffrey and I are chatting, all three of us, and just like David said, I'm tired of talking. My fingers are tired of typing. Let's talk about this. We'll meet now, and then everybody can click the join button. So I don't use that one very often. I would more frequently go to the calendar and schedule it. Calendar, I could say which team I wanted. Webinar. Uh-oh. Retro. I've got bad network quality again. So I can, that's the title. So I can start, it's not going to find it for me. Oh, sorry, I have to go down here and add the channel that I want it to show up in. Yeah. Okay. So does that, any other questions? We've got one more minute. Oops. Okay. I will say too, when you are sharing, so you notice my little floaty box came back because I'm sharing. Don't lose this, because I was in a situation the other day where it somehow got behind. It wasn't floating in front of something, and I had muted myself and I couldn't unmute. So you can't get back to this bar without this little floating window when you're in the middle of a screen share. And so it took me a second to find my little window because it got buried under something. So that's why I just usually move it around and position it differently. Okay, well, if we don't have any other questions, then I want to just give you one last parting piece of information. We have some Office 365 web apps and collaboration classes that are scheduled for the upcoming week, April 15th and 16th. If you're interested in these classes or any of our other classes, you want to contact us by the phone number 800-639-3535 and ask for someone in the sales department. You can also email training@tcworkshop.com. And our website is, just add it to the slide. It is www.tcworkshop.com. Those are great ways to get in touch with us, and we would love to help you if you have questions along the way. In fact, if you think of a question after you leave the webinar, feel free to email training@tcworkshop.com, and one of us will get back with you as quickly as we can. Okay? Thank you so much for your time today, and I hope that you found some of this information to be beneficial.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Yes. Suzanne, you know who it is yelling yes, right? Don't you?
Of course I do.
Suzanne, you know who it is yelling yes, right? Don't you?
You know I can see your name flash up too.
Okay. I'm flashing? I got arrested for that once. I'm flashing?
I don't think you've come back for access level 3 yet.
No
Gotcha.
comprende inglés.
Oh, thanks for joining us today, Robert. I appreciate it.
Good to see you. Toodles.
Bye-bye.